The mound visible from afar has aroused wild theories. The mound known as Miamisburg Mound is located on a ridge on the Great Miami River in the area of the city of Miamisburg in Montgomery County in the southwest of the U.S. state of Ohio, and together with Graves Creek Mound in neighboring West Virginia to the southwest, is one of the two largest conical mounds in eastern North America. Likely built by members of the prehistoric indigenous Ardena culture that settled in the Ohio Valley some 1,800 to 3,000 years ago, the attraction, now listed as a significant cultural monument on the National Register of Historic Places, was archaeologically investigated in 1869. Working on the nearly 20-meter-high mound, which has a circumference of almost 245 meters and was built from 54,000 cubic meters of earth, researchers at the time found a layer of flat stones that acted like shingles on a roof and overlapped each other by 7 meters below the surface. It was therefore suspected that the main Miss Burke Mound, once used as a burial ground or cemetery, or even a border post, could have been a complete stone covering. In view of the gigantic dimensions of the site, some contemporaries apparently felt seduced into attributing the discovery of a mysterious giant bone in its vicinity to such a huge mound in the twinkling of an eye. According to a report in the regional newspaper, the Middletown Signal on the 17th of January 1899, and a quote from a professor at the Smithsonian Institute, the associated skeleton was said to have belonged to a human being, about 2.5 meters tall. However, absolutely nothing is known about the further whereabouts of the bone. For example, in a museum, which is why conspiracy theories about the cover-up of an alleged giant race in the region persist to this day. Santa Catalina Island, a rocky island of about 194 square kilometers, is located in the Pacific Ocean about 35 kilometers southwest of the coast of San Pedro, Los Angeles, in the county of the same name in Southern California, and currently has a population of about 4,000, mainly in the two towns of Avalon and Two Harbors. Archaeological traces of human settlement on the island date back to 9,000 years. The first historically verifiable inhabitants were members of the indigenous Tompa tribe, who called the island Pimu or Pimuna. In 1542, Spanish conquistadors first set foot on its soil and claimed it as their colonial possession under the name San Salvador. Numerous caves soon attracted just as many adventurers, pirates, smugglers, seal hunters, and gold miners, who appreciated the proximity to the mainland, but were wanted by the police there as gangsters. However, as there were no natural freshwater springs on the island at that time, the island remained almost uninhabited during the 19th century. It was not until 1887 that a real estate investor bought the entire island and founded the town of Avalon there. But it was not until the late owner and very wealthy chewing gum manufacturer William Wrigley Jr. developed Santa Catalina Island into a holiday paradise from 1919 onwards, and for example had the Catalina Casino built, which opened in 1929. Around the same time, the amateur archaeologist Ralph Glidden was also active on the island. He discovered over 800 burial sites and claims to have excavated 4,000 human skeletons from them. At first, Glidden was financially supported in his work by various sponsors, but when they stopped paying him in 1924, he opened the Catalina Museum of Island Indians on Avalon Harbor and advertised the artifacts on display by saying that he had found various skeletons of giants in order to attract more visitors. While several old photographs exist as alleged evidence, the bones themselves can no longer be found today. Since Glidden sold his collection in 1962 and died in 1968, his claims about a supposed prehistoric indigenous giant race with blonde hair on the island can neither be confirmed nor entirely refuted today. Sometimes the belief in giants is religiously based. The French physician, anatomist, botanist, and pharmacist Jean Rillen the Younger is considered the founder of giantology or giant research. His treatise of the same name, however, was published posthumously in 1668 and was extremely skeptical to strongly negative about the historical existence of prehistoric giants. Like Rialin, the overwhelming majority of serious natural scientists in the 18th century completely rejected the presumed existence of prehistoric populations of giant beings due to a lack of objectively verifiable evidence. Although this university doctrine prevailed worldwide from the middle of the 19th century and up to the present day, there were and still are some alternative, borderline and popular scientific, but neither academically nor officially recognized approaches to deal with the phenomenon of giants, not only in literary and cultural studies, but also in the context of a so-called crypto-anthropological giantology, with the historicity of once actually living giants. For some time now, the best-known representative of this research on giants has been the American stonemason and author Jim Vera, who has gained some fame with publications and lectures on the discovery of giant skeletons in ancient stone chambers in North America. However, his sometimes very dubious statements and scientifically unsubstantiated explanations of the indigenous mound builders, as well as his closeness to creationism, including the rejection of the theory of evolution, make his reports on corresponding finds of giant bones in Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, and Florida seem quite implausible. Every country in the world has special giant regions. Just like the surrounding Corn Belt as part of the so-called Midwest of the USA, the relatively sparsely populated state of Iowa, which is still characterized by agriculture and cattle breeding and traditionally and historically inhabited by a large percentage of ethnic Germans, is considered politically conservative and culturally somewhat backwards, or even rather backward, and is therefore often and gladly smiled at in a slightly arrogant and mocking manner as the deepest province, even by inhabitants of the big cities on the east and west coasts. Perhaps this fact, peppered with many old prejudices and clichés, also explains the generally popular choice of Iowa as the site of all kinds of old and new myths. Just as in Germany, for example, the Special and the Black Forest were and still are classic locations for old and new sagas and legends, the seemingly endless plains and fields of Iowa are the perfect projection surface for mysterious and inexplicable phenomena. Frequently observed is a mixture of actual archaeological finds, such as those of the effigy mounds from the woodland period of about 2,500 to 3,000 years ago in the area of today's northeast Iowa, with myths and quite improbable reports of the discovery of giant skeletons nearby. In this respect, the very luridly worded report about the alleged excavation of such a skeleton from a mound without any exact location somewhere in Iowa from 1856 in the Burlington, Iowa State Gazette must not be believed at all. No evidence for the giant cave in the lake either. The highland region of the Ozark Mountains, which covers an area of approximately 122,000 kilometers squared and reaches a height of almost 800 meters, extends for the most part over the northwest of the U.S. state of Arkansas and forms a traditional folkloric unit, not only in geographic and geological terms, but also culturally. The region, which in colloquial language is usually referred to only briefly as the Ozarks, is very rural, characterized by many bodies of water and dense forests, and relatively sparsely populated, primarily by descendants of German, Irish, and Scottish immigrants and pioneers. Families and their family trees can often be traced back to the 19th century. People here still live quite down to earth in isolated and widely separated homesteads. They hunt fish, pick mushrooms, and keep bees for a living or as a leisure activity, practice old-fashioned dances such as square dancing, and especially appreciate the oral tradition of coarse and wild stories, as well as richly embellished anecdotes. In the USA and internationally, the entire region is also known for its numerous artificial and partly interconnected reservoirs, which were built between 1911 and 1979 and have since become a popular tourist destination. One of these lakes is the almost 13,000-hectare Beaver Lake in Benton, Carroll, and Washington counties, which attracts many visitors due to its picturesque shore with many rocks and caves, as well as time-honored tall trees. Anglers and divers also like to pursue their hobbies here, and a certain underwater enthusiast named Mike Young from the nearby town of Fort Smith temporarily gained some notoriety when he claimed to have come across the remains of various giant skeletons while diving in an article broadcast on the History Channel in early October 2014. In fact, Young were unable to provide any substantiating evidence in the form of finds for his daring claim, apart from rather shaky footage, which is why this report on prehistoric giants is more likely to belong to the aforementioned fairy tale tradition of the Ozarks than to science. Subscribe for more videos like this and turn on the notification to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.